Your control for yourself is how much can I push those boundaries
Right.
over and over again, because at some point of time those boundaries were distant horizons. You have achieved them. You can see it as a boundary now, but
Right.
at some point it was a distant horizon. So what's next? What's in the horizon? Let me make that my boundary. So what happens is then you walk into spaces you don't know, and that's beyond your comfort zone. Like like we were talking about it, it is a less crowded space. Why do people go that extra mile? Why is it important, or why is it necessary to take that extra mile? That extra mile, when you walk, you will realize there's less traffic. You can actually stop, pause, smell the flowers, and not be run over. There's lesser
It's,
traffic.
it's like a road less traveled on.
Yes, but it's a beautiful road. You need to take your time. You need to pause and pause and pause and pause and do it. Otherwise, it's again a whirlwind, right? Whirlwinds are what? They're pretty to look at. They will take you by storm for a short duration. But you're left gasping thereafter. When it's a nice soft drizzle that brings you in, it rejuvenates things. Then it's a beautiful walk. You're walking, you're stopping, you're observing things because it's slower. And I'm saying this despite the fact that people think my life is a total whirl, which it is. When I'm hustling to pay my bills, it is a whirl. When I'm not, it is not a whirl. It's a slow walk, absolute slow walk. I decide which flowers to smell, which ones to take a picture of, which ones to pause and see and find something else in it. So it's up to you. It's not up to anybody else to do that for you. You're the one who's going to die. You're the one who's grieving.
Welcome everyone to Heart Talk, coming to you live from Kota Kinabalu in Sabah in Malaysia. Thank you for your company. So many things have been happening this past 1 week, but today is exceptional, and I'll tell more about that later. But if you're new and you've just joined us on Heart Talk, please press the subscribe button and ring that bell, because I would love to have your company as you join us during this time. We have these Heart Talk sessions live on YouTube every Wednesday and every Friday. So if you want to kind of follow up on what we're doing and you want to receive notices from us, either on a newsletter or email or even through WhatsApp, please let us know. At the end of this, we'll give you the link. You can just write to me at charleshearttalk@gmail.com, or you can get us right through the WhatsApp handphone at +6 016 841 5224. So this is the time when I really would like you all to kind of know what we're doing. We've got a whole lot of guest speakers that are coming in over the next week or two. And as you have just followed on the montage just now, we're exciting that tomorrow we've got a terrific speaker with us, and I'd love your company. Once again today, we are on part 2 with our guest from India. Her name is Lieutenant Sandhya Suri. And, it's for those of you who missed part 1, please get onto YouTube and follow on the life story. She's a real storyteller. And there is no ending. The chapter at the end will always be written at the end. But today will be something even more interesting. For those of you who have just joined us today, let me just give a bit of a heads up on who we're going to meet in a short while. Sandhya she's a change enabler. She's a 3 times TEDx speaker. She's a life and performance enhancement consultant. She's a communicator. She's an author. She's a poet. And she's a Navy veteran. Currently she's involved with sharing a life narratives, and she's inspirational all the way through, because transformation is her lifestyle. And so if art is meditative, and if travel is a school, and writing is her breathing, what's more? Let's find out. What is it like living on the upside of life? So join me to welcome Sandhya Suri once again to Heart Talk. Welcome, Sandhya.
Hi there. Hello, Dr. Charles. And it's interesting how you mirror what I would have loved to for people to recognize in my lives. Thank you so much for that. That amazing introduction. The hard part is living up to it. But yeah, thank you so much. And good day to everyone who's around. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for being part of the audience. Feel free to please put in your comments. Don't forget to subscribe. There's amazing stuff in this entire channel. So yeah.
Yes, and that's because we have an amazing guest like you. And, and like I said in part one, when we just started off, I said, having a lunchtime session with Sandhya Suri can go into lunch and dinner and to the early hours of the morning. But thank you, Sandhya. And how's the week been for you? Good?
It's been good. It's been hectic. It's a mix of a lot of things. So yeah, it's been a pretty interesting week.
I like the word mix because that's who you are.
Yeah,
And the reason why I say this is because on the last conversation that we had, Sanya, we were talking about two parts and aspects of life. We were talking about aloneness versus loneliness.
yeah.
And that's the kind of space that I want to start off today, because I've titled part two as living on the upside of life. And how has that been for you when you talk about aloneness and you're with yourself? How do you keep the lights on? Because while I was trying to get the title of today's talk, I was telling myself, if she's living on the upstairs and the upside of life, she's got to have a generator somewhere. That even if there's a even if there's a power failure, how does she keep the lights on? So so let's start from there. Aloneness, at the same
Yeah.
time being able to live that fullness of life on the upside. Take us there.
So let me put it clearly. If I had to segregate the two, in how do I find the upside in a downside? I've been married often enough, and I've separated enough. I've mostly been a single mom, and it gives you a lot of space. But space can bite into people, and space can also become a space of becoming, uh, you know. And in this, the difference here is when I had a relationship ending, or someone walk away, or I walked away from a relationship, you walk into that space of loneliness. There is no avoiding it. When you lose somebody you love, that will happen. When you lose and you have that emptiness can come and eat you alive, right? So that is the downside. When you start to look at that space that you get of quiet, of forced quiet, and you start tapping into what it can bring to your table, to do things that you've always wanted to do but never really had time for. For example, hobbies. I mean, when you were a kid, what were you doing? What did you enjoy doing when you were 11-year-old, if I ask? And some people say, hey, I loved playing football. Someone else says, I loved doing art. I loved doing this. And then, like, when was the last time you did this? And that is where you're like, I can't remember. Maybe college. It's decades. Some of them, do end up saying a year, and I'm still happy about it, because a year is still a shorter duration than decades of not doing something that you've truly enjoyed. And that lonely space is what gives you that time to come and indulge yourself in things that you truly enjoyed doing. And it doesn't take much. Most people say, hey, I don't have time for that. Allocate, at least give it a 20 minutes appointment, right? On a daily basis. 20 minutes, just shut off from everything else. Do what you truly enjoy doing. And it can be anything. It can be music, it can be art, it can be singing, it can be writing, it can be yoga, whatever gives you that kick, gives you that energy. Take that 20 minutes to do it. And slowly you will find the 20 actually expands to a longer period of time, because you are now, you know, you have that time. You know that you are not relying on someone else for your happiness. So you end up doing things that make you happy. So it's like that.
Yeah.
So that is the upside of loneliness, which is aloneness. And that transition is to be able to see that little bit of, a little gap in the window from where the light is going to stream. Once the light starts streaming in, do something about it. So when you don't find a light, just go around doing something that you truly enjoy doing, which you haven't done in a long, long time. Get back to it. Not just for being judged on it. It's not for somebody else. Do it for yourself, and you'll always have that space, which is completely you.
That's one of the lights on.
Yeah.
Part of it. But let me put it this way. Post COVID, we are living in a new norm, Sanya. And for many who have actually lost their jobs or they've given up and they're moving, William Bridges wrote this book, Transitions, making sense of life's changes. So there are many who have come out from what they were doing before and they're in a space of transition, which he calls the neutral zone. So when do you close off the end and when do you start the new beginning? And that space that you're talking about can be in transition, which can be scary,
It's
not knowing.
always in transition.
It's always, yeah, and you don't know whether you want to go forward because you can't see ahead. You've just broken a bridge before, and so how have you primed yourself up in your journey of life when you talk about narratives and
All right.
you're a performance consultant, and I'm in this neutral zone. Sanya, take the driving wheel or tell me how to get on with it. I think that's very critical for coming from you.
So I'll fix this question that you asked in two parts.
Okay.
Part one is when you are telling me about, how do you manage that? You shouldn't be shutting off a part of yourself. Acknowledgement of your pain and your happiness equally is important. Paying too much attention to it is different, right? So when you pay attention to things that make you happy, uh, pain is reducing in a way. You think you're shutting it away, but when you spend too much effort shutting it away, you're still focusing on the negative. When you're spending that amount of time, that quantum of time, feeding what makes you happy, what gives you joy, what delights you, then that acknowledgement is there. Yes, you exist, but I know I can put you away. I don't necessarily have to lock you. You see, when you shut the door on someone, okay, on a small child or anybody who's learning how to walk, you don't necessarily lock the door.
Mm.
The door is still unlocked because you have to learn to move the handle, open the door, and get in. After a point, you learn to turn the key. You're locking it, but the next part of that knowledge is key. I know there's a key somewhere and I need to open it. So that effort is required, right? And when it's absolutely locked, then you're looking for solutions, but don't assume that it's already locked.
Mm.
When someone shuts the door on you, the door is shut. It does not necessarily mean it's locked. So the darkness that we invite to ourselves, because we assume that the door is locked and everything is now shut on, we have to stop assuming that. The minute you stop assuming that, you will be able to look for solutions within whatever you are, whichever space you're in. Your solutions may not be necessarily about getting what you wanted in the first place, but I do believe the universe will give you what you need. Need comes before want. Want is more desirous, right? So it's a step towards that. So you may not like what the outcome is entirely. Now, in terms of managing that light, what you were talking about, there it's more about no matter what comes to me, we feel we are in shock because of the amount quantum of change we've undergone since COVID. I really did not have too much of a transition because I was already in that change. Why I was
Also,
already in that change is because I realized there are only two truths in life. So you have change, it's a constant, death is a constant. There is nothing else that's a constant apart from these two things. So when you're already changing, and when then something comes and hits you, and I get into that space where I have a challenge in front of me, which looks like a problem, does not look like a challenge. One mentally have to convert it into a challenge. Challenge is doable. Problem remains a problem. So if you look at it differently, what happens is then the question to ask is when I'm stuck in a in a corner or in a spot where I know it's a life or death situation, literally, I'm going to ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? This
Mm.
is what I ask myself to get out. And the worst that can happen is you die. That's the worst. Of course, being beaten up and left aside is a very painful experience. Let me just tell you, I got mugged in Africa, so I know that. But this whole point about knowing that this is the worst that can happen allows you to take a risk to turn that problem into a challenge rather than just looking at it and say, oh, what am I going to do? It's up to you. Nobody else is going to do that for you. So you get ahead and do it.
Right, right, right. Nice. I mean, I see that point of, that's a really good point there, isn't it? Take a challenge and turn it around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's easier to take a challenge on than have a no, and end up dead on time, that kind of feeling. But the other point is that when you talk about spaces, Sanya, can one be trapped in that space where it's you and you and you yourself? Because that
Yeah.
that can also be another scary part whether it's only me, and you won't let and by that I mean I'm moving into the whole concept of setting boundaries for oneself. So many books have been written about boundaries, and everybody wants the me this, me that, it's a me too movement, it's my life, my space. So how do you set boundaries for yourself,
You
keeping that
shouldn't
space
set
alive?
boundaries for yourself.
Huh?
You shouldn't set boundaries for yourself. You should set boundaries for other people.
Yeah, okay.
How
That's that.
much of them you're going to allow
Right.
to evoke, various emotions in you. That is control. Your control for yourself is how much can I push those boundaries
Right.
over and over again? Because at some point of time, those boundaries were distant horizons. You have achieved them. You can see it as a boundary now. But at
Right.
some point, it was a distant horizon. So what's next? What's in the horizon? Let me make that my boundary. So what happens is then you walk into spaces you don't know, and that's beyond your comfort zone. Like we were talking about it, it is a less crowded space. Why do people go that extra mile? Why is it important or why is it necessary to take that extra mile? That extra mile, when you walk, you will realize there's less traffic. You can actually stop, pause, smell the flowers, and not be run over.
Mm.
There's lesser
It's,
traffic.
it's like a road less traveled on.
Yes, but it's a beautiful road. You need to take your time. You need to pause and pause and pause and pause and do it. Otherwise, it's again a whirlwind, right? Whirlwinds are what? They're pretty to look at. They will take you by storm for a short duration. But you're left gasping thereafter.
Mm.
When it's a nice soft drizzle that brings you in, it rejuvenates things. Then it's a beautiful walk. You're walking, you're stopping, you're observing things because it's slower. And I'm saying this despite the fact that people think my life is a total whirl, which it is. When I'm hustling to pay my bills, it is a whirl. When I'm not, it is not a whirl. It's a slow walk, absolute slow walk. I decide which flowers to smell, which ones to take a picture of, which ones to pause and see and find something else in it. So it's up to you. It's not up to anybody else to do that for you. You're the one who's going to die. You're the one who's breathing.
How does a busy professional listening in and probably telling himself or herself, I don't have the luxury and the time to stop and smell the flowers. I just get on and do, and my life is just set. I mean,
Give yourself
I
those 20 minutes,
right.
appointment of 20 minutes. Slow down, stop, pause. So, smelling the flowers doesn't necessarily mean actually physically smelling the flowers. It's
Yeah.
about enjoying what you do. Even if it's a coffee without any thoughts, no gadgets, no interruption, just you with yourself. A lot of people walk into their homes, there's a lot of noise going on, and they will still switch on the television. They want that noise in the background because it stops them from thinking. I don't own a television.
Right.
My daughter and I decided to not have a television. So in 2017, we got rid of it. And thereafter, we have both done things that we've wanted to do. I rediscovered art. I finished writing my book, which I'd been trying to write for decades. There's stuff that has happened because I stopped doing the one thing that made me incredibly distracted, which filled up the quiet space that I needed. The day you're comfortable with that quiet space with yourself, even for 20 minutes, and then slowly expand the time and give yourself those 20 minutes. Come on, you owe it to yourself. You are the only person who has stood by you forever since the day you started breathing, since the moment you started breathing. And you are the only person who's going to be there for you until you stop breathing. You owe that to yourself. Be your
Right.
biggest love affair. That.
Yeah, listen, I should have met you 20 years ago, but I would have fallen in love every day, repeatedly. But Sanya,
I'm not always nice, trust me.
now, how do you, I mean, listening to you is refreshing, is the word I'd love to use. And as a plastic surgeon, it's rejuvenating because, you feel rejuvenated when you hear a conversation of this kind of, because I remember after my open heart surgery, my first person on my podcast interview was a psychologist in Sydney. And I was going through all these mad thoughts of, you name it, and it was in my mind. And she said these words. She said, Charles, you need to be kind to yourself. And until today, I really don't know, until I kind of like moved out. I'm spending about an hour, about a year and a half now by myself. And it's never too late. I agree with you to stop and pause and take stock. I mean, one of the greatest sayings ever was that the greatest gift in life is the unexamined life is not worth living. And often we have to stop and examine our lives, and where's all the potholes and where are all the spaces, and fill them up with rich things in life. And now I want to come back still to the upside of life, because because I'm yet to take an elevator up to that top floor where and live in an area where everything. Now tell me, to somebody who's listening in, is it thinkable? Is it doable? Is it possible? Is it workable? Is the I am able to do it? You have talked about it. And so, for somebody who's going through a trial in life, how do they look on the brighter side of things? Because, when it comes to the heart of the matter, it's a matter of the heart. There's always the dark side and there's always the bright side. Who wants to go into the dark side, Sanya? Nobody in the right mind. But life is such. We've got problems and trials. And you talk a lot about positive thinking. Talk to us about this whole philosophy of positive mindset. Yeah, I hear it every day on the YouTube. How to think positive when there are people around you that can bring negativity into your sphere. How do you stay positive?
All right. Um, a lot of us are very spiritual in the thought that there is good and evil in the world. The same good and evil exists inside our heads. Let's put it that way. Inside our mind, there is an angel and there is a demon. I'm saying this for explanation,
Yeah,
hypothetically, all right,
metaphorically kind
to
of
make it for
explanation.
better understanding.
Sure.
Okay. Inside my head, there are no demons or angels. Let me just put it that way. That's just me. And yeah, well, that's another story altogether. But when you're talking about having an angel inside your head and your demon inside your head, both of these people are hungry. One is light, one is darkness. They're both hungry. They occupy equal space when they begin with. When your day begins, both of them have equal space in your head. They're both hungry. The one you feed will grow, the one you don't feed will shrivel up. That's how you use it in your day-to-day things. When something comes your way and you're stuck in a situation, you're stuck in this whole cycle of uh, you know not knowing where to go and thinking it's a really, really dark spot. Stop feeding that darkness. Don't feed the darkness. It's not going to help you. You know it's not going to help. And this is not that people don't know that thinking negative things doesn't work. They know it. And
Right.
yet, the point is to be able to find that one little thread that they can really hang on to and hold on to. It's a matter of practice. As much as you require exercise and a lot of orientation and a lot of practice to make it and get a gold medal. This is the same thing inside your head. Inside your head, you need to be able to practice this. Where is the thread that I can hang on to get out of this situation? And you have to look for that thread. And that thread can be anything, absolutely anything, which is why I say go back to something that you loved doing. It's an affirmation that there is something that brings you joy, that will give you joy. So you may be in 100% darkness. Those 20 minutes when you do something, it gives you that little bit of light, that little bit of joy. And, it's infectious. It becomes infectious. Then you slowly begin to increase that time. People may think you're doing it too slowly, or you need to recover faster. Everyone is on their own darkness grief clock. Their time is different. The way the seconds pass is different. The way the minute passes is different, which is why I say those 20 minutes, give yourself time to do that. That 20 minutes is precious because it's a span of time. At some point you'll think it's dragging, I should give up. No, be deliberate about those 20 minutes. And thereafter, once you get into that habit, you will look for those 20 minutes.
Right.
And you'll say, I'm not satisfied with the 20, let me give it the 30. You are giving yourself something great. And believe in that. Believe that it's what's giving you joy. You need to conserve that. You need to then start feeding that little joy with food so it can grow, and it grows bigger and bigger. It shrivels up your darkness. Darkness is not entirely black. Most of us think black and then we think darkness. Trust me, when you close your eyes, you see dark, but it's not really black. It has a lot of colors. Focus on those colors. See what colors are you seeing inside your eyes. When you close your eyes, like I would see a yellow, I'm seeing a gold though. Oh, I'm seeing a deep purple. I'm not seeing darkness. I'm seeing a deep purple. Oh, this is becoming a blue. This is becoming an orange. What you're doing is you're diverting your mind from your darkness and seeing it like an abstract painting inside your head. Once you close your eyes, your visuals are very clear on what is coming up as an aura, what is not
Right.
coming up, and what is encircling. Just let it wander. And that's where
Right.
you begin. And that's mostly what people, when they meditate, do. Meditation comes in different ways. And this can come with a piece of music, it can come with a piece of somebody saying something, or absolute silence. It's okay. Whatever works for you.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you for that. And now, sorry, I can
Are we
spend the
back
whole day.
again?
I mean, we can have heart to heart, but this is interesting. How important is building the right relationships for you? Because as you journey on and you've found yourself, really what you're talking about is finding your own true self, and is sharing that true self important for you in the form of relationships, building relationship, because there's so much of effort that takes into building a relationship. Because I'm going to move from there to some idea of parenting. Because if we don't have a relationship with our own self first, which is healthy and authentic, we can't talk about others. I mean, I can count the number of friends I have. And that's because, nobody measures up to the space that I want them to invite them in. But you know, have you found, having friends difficult because they don't measure up or they don't have the same wavelength like you have? Or do you just take them for who they are and accept it?
See, on a larger, it's like a circle. All right. You have circles of friends, friendships. Not every association is a friendship. That's the first part. And we
Nice.
are all very different people. So what happens is my outer circle of people includes my network, includes strangers. That's a one-way thing a lot of times because there are people who recognize me, there are people who know me, there are people I know, but they don't know me.
Right.
When I'm saying knowing in this context, it's about recognizing, oh, that person is something I like about that person, for example, or I don't like this thing about this person. So that's your outer periphery of people. These are associations. When you're talking about friendship is a tight inner circle. And in between that, there are degrees to how far you would go for someone. All right. So when I'm talking about people in general, I usually take people for who they are, face value.
Okay.
I take them at face value because I think every single person in the world deserves that degree of trust first. A stranger is a friend you will eventually know. Sometimes it's that way. If you are meeting me and you are actually putting on a pretense, you know it, you're lying. I don't know it. And what I don't know, I don't know. So I'm taking you at face value. You may end up cheating me. You may end up betraying me. You may end up, crossing me out. It doesn't matter. Eventually, what happens is they will be who they are. I am who I am. I don't want to be that person or mirroring something that I don't want inside of me, right?
Right.
So if someone's being harsh where it's not required, do I need to be harsh? Do I not? We're going back to that same thing that I've written.
Yes.
If you were not judged,
Yeah.
would
Right.
you do this at
Would you
all?
tell?
So it's like that. So one is to be able to take people at face value. Second is to be able to just respect them for who they are. I will always give them that opportunity. I don't respect people who don't extend that same respect that they want from me.
Right.
That's where I draw a line. That's the boundary, right? I don't, I will seek consent, but I want someone to seek consent, right? So these are the boundaries. These are the spaces for yourself. That's my personal space. My friends, where friendship is concerned, it's unconditional. It's not demanding. There are no demands, there are no conditions, no questions, literally no questions. I have friends who have lived their entire lives without telling me about their entire life, and I don't grudge them that. But they can pick up the phone, not speak to me for 5 years, pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Sandy, I need this." Okay, no questions asked. That, no conditions. And it's not, I'm going to do this because I'm going to expect something from you in return. But do not betray that trust. That's
Right.
important, right? But betrayal comes in so many forms when you look at it. When you start digging in a little deeper, your truth is not necessarily my truth.
Right.
The engagement in my life is far beyond a single person. So the easiest way to explain this would be our relationships is like we learned Venn diagrams when we were in school in mathematics. It's a beautiful assessment of relationships alike. Which part of your life is fulfilled by which circle? So there are parts of me when I'm in a relationship with a person, I cannot expect that person to be absolutely perfect for me. That's wrong. Expecting that itself is wrong. And that person cannot always be my best friend.
Right.
There is a part of me, I have become somebody because of this person, and that part overlaps. The rest of it may or may not. Sometimes it grows, sometimes it shrinks, or sometimes you grow. So your circle becomes bigger, that person's circle stays small, and that person's happy in it. So if it's a circle within a circle, that may be a one partner who's very happy with one single partner and just does not want anything else in their life. And then there is this other person who has this partner, is very trusting, very loyal to this partner, but the rest of their life is becoming huge. So as we transform, as we grow as people, our circle becomes larger. People will enter your life to touch you, to be able to transform you or evolve you in a manner only they are capable of.
Right.
Nobody else will do it for you. That is their journey in your life, and this is your journey in their life. So when
Right.
they leave, why are you even regretting it? They need to do things that they need to do. And if a person's saying, "Hey, I want to leave," this is because of relationships. When you're talking about relationships, when a person says they want to go, uh, you can't stop them. Truth is, they've already gone. It's the physical part of them that needs to just catch up.
Right. I mean, this is
Yeah,
this is transformational as
yeah,
opposed to transactional. uh,
Yeah.
I scratch my back, you scratch my back, kind of thing, and I
It's
think,
okay if you want to,
yeah, I mean, but
whatever works.
it takes a journey of life to come to a place where you are in, where you can say that and understand the whole complexity of life itself. And I think this is important because when we talked about a number of things, in space, we talked about
Mm.
boundaries and all that. Let's go into the space of parenting. You're a parent, I'm a parent. And if my three children who are all doctors today stand in front of me, they'll tell you he hasn't changed. but but one of the points that I found in that moving away and being by myself for the last year and a half is that there's so much that has happened that I wish I could have controlled, Sanya. In other words, I mean, I like that smile, but in other words, I mean, I think the word is awareness, mindful. Mindfulness to me today is my key in when I'm talking about, and that is every moment in the present time to be mindful of how I conduct myself and what I'm thinking. Because when you're with people, we talked about friends, we can either cultivate intentionally a good friendship or we can actually burst it right all open. And I see that in my children. And parenting is a skill.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's an acquired skill. Let me just tell you that. But it's an acquired skill only up to a certain degree because parenting exists in it's a blend of two different domains and glued with the present, right? Parenting is as you've seen your parents bring you up. That's one part of parenting. So you are carrying that in your head.
Hmm.
Oh, this is how parenting is done because you've seen it. And then there is this part of who you will become as a parent. But nobody trains you on parenting. So all of you parents out there who feel that that huge guilt that you carry that I'm not doing enough, please
Right.
remember nobody trained you to be a parent. Nobody can ever train you to be a parent. Each story is different. Every life is different. So I can give you 20 words of wisdom, but you will pick up the one that's applicable to you, or sometimes not. But it might light, an idea in your head, or you might get a breakthrough. But the truth is that do not berate yourself so much because when you feel guilty, you feel low, your energies fall, and your children are very perceptible to your energy rather than what they are actually only seeing. They are sensory organs literally roaming around the house. They know what's going on no matter what you want to hide. They
Absolutely.
know it. Then it's a matter of how to handle the truth of it all. My daughter has grown up with me and she has learned that it is okay to speak the truth. You do not get punished if you speak the truth. No, she will never get punished if she speaks the truth. But now I, if I doubt what she's saying, it's okay to have fun and be lying and bantering. So that's a different thing. But to be, speaking about small things, kids come to you, they'll tell you the smallest of things. But they come to you only when you listen, pause, and not judge them. They need validation all the time, but they need acknowledgement. Forget the validation. Validation is sometimes they may be wrong, and you have to be able to tell them, no, this looks wrong. Doesn't it feel like that? But you give them space to think about it and say, oh, okay, you know. So, but as a parent, when you carry that guilt, it drags you down. So, if you are not in a great relationship with your spouse or your partner, it doesn't matter. Please let go. If someone wants to go, let them go. Let them be happy because a happier parent makes for happy children. You cannot compromise on that. So I would rather have my daughter grow up with a single parent rather than be driven up the wall every single day with my partner and then take it out on her and have the bigger fear of him taking it out on her. You see? So as a parent, you need to tell your children, I got you. That's all they want. When they come and tell you small things, listen to them. Because for you, most people laugh it off and say, "Yeah, so funny, so cute." No, it matters to them. It's a big deal.
Right.
Even the smallest of things is a big deal. So when they grow up and you're cribbing that your kids are not listening to you, they didn't come and tell you stuff. That's because you did not listen to the things you thought was small stuff when they were growing up. That was all the big stuff. So if you didn't listen to them or trust them with it, at that point, they're not going to trust you now.
Right, right. I mean,
But
this is
be
another
kind to yourself.
this is the title of our next book, but you know, but Sanya, this is wisdom. This is wisdom of advice coming from someone like yourself, and Clayton Christensen was a Harvard School professor, business school, and he wrote this book. How will you measure your life? And as a Harvard professor, and his own father had cancer, and then Clayton ended up with the same type of cancer, and then he had a stroke, and he had to learn how to speak and write all over again, which was his trade to be as a professor. And at the end of the life, he still said that I lived a fulfilled life. Now, at this stage of your life, how would you measure your life?
I don't measure my life. I don't spend time wasting time measuring my life. I live it. I think that's important to be
Okay,
able to live your life in the now, in the present. That's why you call it the present. That's the gift.
right,
What exists ahead of you is a dream. What's gone is a memory. But if you don't make enough memory by being 100% present in the now, how are you going to create those memories that have to be really vivid? Memories become vivid when you're 100% in that situation. So when people are asked to close their eyes and remember the time when you were absolutely at your happiest, you will realize that those are moments when you were in that now, 100%. Not a single part of your being was elsewhere. Your soul, your heart, your mind, your body, your senses, everything was in one space. And that is your most vivid memory. Similarly, with pain and grief, you can have that kind of vivid memories. So most of my life is like a blur, literally, except those spaces where I was 100% where I was. And when you begin to experience it in that now, you should be focusing on that as well. It's okay to plan out for the future. There's a lot of hope in it. That's the reason why we set alarm to wake up the next morning. How hopeful of us that we will
right,
not die tonight. I
right.
don't set alarms. I don't set an alarm. I wake up every day when I need to, at the time that I need to, without setting an alarm. Alarms for me are scary things. They give me anxiety,
Okay.
serious anxiety. I cannot sleep the night I know that I have to wake up early in the morning to catch a flight. I don't sleep that night because I know an alarm has been set to wake me up. What if it doesn't go off? So there's major anxiety which doesn't allow me to sleep.
Right.
And that's probably the only time I get anxiety. Otherwise, I don't. I don't get anxiety. But that's because
Nice.
I've stopped my alarms. I just live where I am, when what I need to do what I need to do. It does not always measure up to other people's opinion of how life should be led, but that's okay.
Well, there will be a number of people listening in who would like to take the lift up to where you're staying and be on the upside and the upstairs of life
It's a
because
good place to hang out. Join up.
and the all the bright side of life. But as we come to the close of this conversation, I want to take you to a place where you found so much of yourself in, and that is in your writings. Because writing is your breathing, and I think this is where I would like you to just tell us, and I know that poetry sort of took its evolution out of your writings, and perhaps you will be able to share with us one or two poems that you wrote and what that means to you. But tell us how writing became a lifestyle for you in a certain way.
Well, I think I was, so the 13th year of my life has been pretty transformational as a teenager. You're just entering your teens. These days, I think teenage starts like 10 instead of 13.
Yeah.
But at that point, it was 13. I mean, inside my head also, it was probably 13. I was not a very, uh, you know, hardworking student at that point. I was in a boarding school. I did not want to study there. So I was deliberately flunking my lessons, literally,
Serious.
deliberately flunking so I could be chucked out of school. It was a convent run by nuns. And I had this amazing teacher, my English teacher in school in eighth grade, I remember. So I was promoted from seventh grade to eighth grade under consideration. So on trial. If I don't make it to eighth grade, the first term
Uh-huh.
properly, I would be demoted back to seventh grade. So I was in that space and I didn't care. I
Uh-huh.
did not care. I was rebellious. I just wanted out because I didn't think my parents loved me enough to keep me home. And I just had that notion in my head. And it was a mean place. I was being bullied. It was a whole lot of things going on. And this teacher, uh, I don't know what she saw in me. So when she taught poetry in eighth grade, she said, so everybody just, let it go and just write something. Everybody, each of us had to write a piece. That's how one of my pieces, the first piece, that serious piece that I wrote, came about at that point. Now,
Right.
for a 13-year-old to pick up a very morbid theme is by itself very difficult. I was going through a difficult phase. I couldn't express it. But this particular piece that I wrote, I don't know, she just saw through me completely. So I wrote this piece about a beggar. You know what beggars want? They want their money, they want food for the day, they want attention. And the only fame is something, attention, acknowledgement, appreciation. So all of these things are, culminating into a spot where this piece is about this beggar who dies on the road and then earns attention, fame by being mentioned in the newspaper as
Right.
someone who died on the road. Right. So that's basically what the basis of that piece was. I'm not reading it out, but yeah, that is what it was. So she came back to me and she said, "Don't stop writing." And
Mm.
I looked at her. I had a very quizzical look on my face, like, because I was very, very heavily into sports. I was an athlete as well. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, writing poetry. I had fun already writing. And she said, it will give you an expression of, whatever frustrates you. Take it out on the track and take it out on books. And that's how I got into writing. I didn't write for a long time, but we would, by ourselves be bantering, writing essays, and my essays would get read out in class because I would always pick the most interesting part of it, like write a story beginning with this, and I would actually cook up a story and write. So that's how I got into writing, and I think I owe my writing to her, but it helps me breathe. This is something I realize, and I can just write. So I can write pieces out of, supposing you were to give me 10 random thoughts, 10 random words that were going around in your head, and you write them down and you give it to me, I will create a piece for you in
Mm.
under 5 minutes and it will be done.
Right. That's a gift.
I have no idea what's going on in your head, but when I write, it will resonate with you.
Nice, nice, nice. What a,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
that is a wonderful part of life, isn't it? To be able to put it and pen it down,
yeah.
and because that comes from the inner life, isn't
I
it?
don't plan it. I don't plan what I write.
Right.
Unless
Yeah.
it's a challenging exercise that's given as a writing exercise, I don't. But I cannot, and I cannot for the life of me write a haiku. Let me just tell you that. I respect people who can put so much in brevity and place it out there. I'm
Right.
just not like that.
Cool, nice. Well, listen, I mean, this is one part that's so lovely to listen to. My mom was a poet herself, and she used to write a whole batch of poetry. And I still remember one that sticks out so well in this sentence about true love is doing, not just believing. And her whole life was just lived out through love, for everything around her. So would you be kind enough to have, do you have some poetry that you could read to us as we close up before we wind up?
Yeah, I can.
Nice, nice. Thank you.
So it's okay. So since you mentioned your mom being a poet, I am just going to, this is probably a very, very appropriate piece. This piece was published through Flower Song Press in the US in 2020, Boundless 2020. It's an anthology. And this particular piece got nominated also for the Pushkaret Prize
All
as,
right.
it was one of the
Well done.
nominations. Thank you. But for me, it felt a lot more meaningful and deeper because I had written this piece. It was dedicated to my mom. You just mentioned your mom,
Yes.
and this I wrote this about 2 odd days after she passed because I just didn't know how to put out there what I was feeling. And I was basically managing almost everything at that point, because when you are the older child, you end up with a lot of those assumed responsibilities that will just come to you. And I'm the calm one. I'm the one not getting anxious. I'm the one not panicking. So, a lot of stuff then starts coming and piling on. So I'd written this piece, and I'm just going to read this out for you. And just as a context, I did not really get along with my mother for a long, long time. I
Hmm.
think I just understood her a lot better the older I got. That's like after I was 40. And this is, she passed when I was 43. So, I just had about
Right.
3 years of actually understanding what she was all about.
Right.
And so this piece, I'm starting this. It's titled Way Too Soon. The ceasing of breath did not announce, but I saw it cast its shadow on you just a day before. The lines that spiked now lie flat. It was all silent now, no beeps or warning tones to awaken those beside you, half dead, half alive. I had stood gazing at what had become of the simple desires that had shone in your eyes. Not many needs, but morsels of time we failed to spend, now hungry. Those eyes never quite opened. For weeks you struggling lay, braving and fighting, torn between worlds, the gods of death and those of us that lived. You stirred not. I know you are gone, but it's just a spell. Next door, somewhere you drift, in a world just like this one, or perhaps how happier, I hope. The emptiness and shadows gnaw slowly at the clock. The minute lingers for us, like a dewdrop waiting to fall. The days remain hollow without your childlike curiosity and tantrums. It will never be the same. You took the anchor away. We talk though, and it rips me when daddy calls me by your name. Though the curtains have fallen, we live to tell the tale. So, unforgotten. So, about this piece, I lost my mother to a fatal road accident. She was on the ventilator for about 17 days before she succumbed to, very severe injuries. And I met her alive the day before, when I'd gone to visit her at the hospital. And I was also nursing my daughter, who was also in the same accident and was bedridden with a lot of fractures. So this was written a day or so after she passed, and this is my tribute to her. So it finally, was submitted, like I said. Uh, it was published at the Rio Grande Poetry Fest 2020 in Boundless 2020, and this one was for my mom.
Oh, beautiful. Really beautiful. And thank you so much for that, Sanya. In all our lives, one day the curtains will come down. But I like the words where you wrote, you stir on. And these last two sessions, you have really stirred us on through all the ups and downs and the curves and corners. But we're really grateful. I'm really grateful and thankful that you have joined us on Heart Talk. You've been such an inspiration to all of us. And I hope that we'll be able to have another Heart Talk conversation on other matters of life. But till then, from all of us, from Mary, the producer, and Heidi, the coordinator, I want to thank you, Sanya, for spending us and giving us your time. You've been such a delight. And I just wish you all the best and wait for some more poetry to come our way and the next book coming out. So, once again, from all of
Soon,
us,
soon.
thank you very much. Thank
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Charles. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank
Pleasure.
you, everyone, for listening in and being here. Let us know what you think of it, and do not forget to subscribe.
Thank you. So once again, everyone, thank you very much for your company. We really enjoyed our time with Sandhya Suri. For those of you who follow us on HEARTtalk, please log in to YouTube, HEARTtalk with Dr. Charles Lee. Till then, from all of us here, bye for now.